Hi everyone, welcome to Ben's Business Podcast. I'm here with Virr and he's going to share with us today some of his big takeaways from the Live Your Optimum Life workshop that he attended. So Virr, would you like to give a quick introduction to everyone and who you are and what you're all about?
So my name is Virr, as Ben said, and what I'm all about is changing the way that people interact with the world, changing the way people use technology, and also really, it's all about understanding how we see the world. And actually, Ben and I have been kind of working together for a long time to help each other improve on that as well. So, really great to be on here, Ben. Thanks.
Yeah, good to have you on here. I was just sharing this onto Ben's Business Book Club, which is a Facebook community I've been building over the last sort of 4 years, that we can get some more live viewers. So if anyone has any questions today on the takeaways that Vir's going to share with us, the reason I got Vir on, please do ask any questions as to conclude that. The reason I got Vir on was to share with my audience, with you, what Vir's shared with me over the last week, because Vir and I do a daily call almost, and we also do sort of evening reflections on our week. So we do a bit of, like, let's say, vocalized journaling, and we give each other our sort of lessons of the day, lessons of the week, what mistakes we made, where we could improve things, and we give each other quite direct advice as well. So Vir's been very extremely powerful the last week with me and telling me some of the areas where I could use what he's learned to benefit my life and my business. So that was actually why I wanted to bring him on, just to pick your brain and get you to share some of the most powerful things that I've learned from you this week since going to this workshop from Live Your Optimum Life. What was the first thing you wanted to share today, Var? Like, what was the like top takeaway that you got?
Thanks. So the top takeaway really was all about this idea of balance. I think that's one of the key focuses and ideas in the workshop is that life is all about that balance. And we often have really kind of excited, elated moments in our life, and we also have very low kind of moments of frustration, of anger, of fear. And these moments happen to us. That's what it seems like. But when we can understand how we can actually almost take acknowledgement of the fact that we are in control of how we react to these moments and how we live our lives in these moments, then we can actually kind of get really focused on what's actually important rather than being detracted by these moments effectively. And that's not to say that you can't be happy and you can't be sad. It's just more about when you are happy or sad, what's most important to you in that moment, and keeping focus, as I said.
Yeah, yeah, and so like that in those areas where it's where you're either overexcited or low, you can use this technique to pull yourself up or pull yourself back down. And we talk about this consciousness chart that we've been kind of developing of
Yeah.
this humble line, which is like sits in the middle, and then there's this elated arrogance, overconfidence, which
Mm.
we can pop through the top and be in or go into our ego. Um, Instead of staying humble and sort of balance between that lower sort of, let's say, humbling's probably in the middle, whereas the lower is in sort of like low self-esteem and slow and lazy kind of feeling. And we have the two polar opposites. And what you're talking about from that is a mixture of what we are talking about from what we've learned at Super Genius from Ryan
Yeah.
Pinnock, a mixture of that and experiences that we've shared and developed something unique ourselves. So we're able to keep ourselves in that humble line, which is really important to stay in our genius, to stay in a powerful place where we can relate to more people. Because when we're overconfident or under, like, well, way underconfident and have low self-esteem, we can't relate to the people here. We can't relate to people here. So being in this balance allows us to be really strong and powerful in communication and business and etc.
Yeah, and be open really.
And be open.
And I think that that idea of openness is very important as well because when you're speaking to someone, you can have layers upon you where you're speaking from a sales layer or from a business owner layer or from a layer of this is who I am and this is what I should get layer. But actually, that idea of balance, that idea of openness means that you can actually speak to each other, um, kind of cutting through all of that and be that's a way to be very genuine and that's more powerful to connect and be genuine than it is to just try and effectively um, use tricks or techniques to connect with people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, Thanks for joining us, Dylan. Dylan's having his breakfast just now and planning his day while watching this live. He likes to come on and watch Ben's Business Book Club, Business Podcast with his breakfast. Um, so it's like 2 p.m. every Wednesday, and he can come on and have his breakfast and enjoy these interviews. So anyone else that's on live, please leave a comment. Let us know that you're there. So Vir, how could we use that strategy in practical life? Like, how will it benefit, say, me making more sales in a coaching service that I'm offering?
Yeah, so this idea of being genuine, of connecting with people is very important, and we've actually dived a bit deeper into that as well by understanding ourselves. So there was this idea of understanding what your highest priorities are, and if you understand your own highest priorities, you can see how everything that you do in life is based on those priorities. Now, the amazing thing about this as well is that it can help you to understand other people and therefore obviously understand your clients, understand potential leads and things like that as well. So you can get to know people and try and effectively figure out what their highest priorities are and speak to them in their language. That's the idea of it. Is you know, it's the idea of understanding what someone's language is and talking to them in that language in terms of their priorities. So for example, my highest priority was self mastery, which is kind of why if someone was to suggest for me to go for a run, and I might be a bit resistant to that because maybe I don't want to go out and do exercise in the cold. But if someone was to tell me to go for a run, I would suggest that in a way that says, okay, it'll be a great way for you to overcome the obstacle of and create some discipline in your life, then there's you're saying the same thing both times, but you're just adding that extra like twist that I would enjoy and I
Yeah,
would appreciate from it.
yeah, yeah. Like, I think we had a discussion about that. How if Gemma wanted to convince me to come to one of her friends' weddings as her plus one of the ways to speak to me based on my priorities is like self mastery as well.
Yeah,
That there might be someone there at the wedding who has mastered life, like an entrepreneur is very successful. And if she was to mention that plug in the conversation about getting me to come, and I'm like, no, I'm not coming to a wedding. I can't be bothered coming. If she mentioned something like that, then I would be more likely to come because she's talking in line with my priorities and purpose.
yeah, and also I just want to you reminded me of a suggestion actually, or not a suggestion, something that the person who was running the workshop told us about. Her name is Manmeet Chowdhury, and she was saying that she's actually was invited to a wedding in India, and she started or she's running a workshop in India because she knows that she wants to go to India for that workshop now, which means she can be there for the wedding. So the idea is that she's using her own priorities to motivate herself to do the things that she may not necessarily want to do.
Right.
You know, she's gone and created value for herself and for other people, and therefore created more connection kind of with her family. So
Yeah.
you know, this idea where she's you know, connecting multiple priorities in one go.
Yeah.
By you know, her family is lower for her. Um, it's delivering her coaching is higher for her, but obviously family is still important to her. So she's used the idea of the coaching in the workshop to connect with her family as well.
Yeah. And one of the things that Virr shared with me that I think everyone would find interesting is how to figure out people's priorities. Is a couple
Mm.
of questions that it's kind of set up as STEM, STEM, and it's space, time, energy, and money. So, what do you keep in your space? And can you say the three other questions, Virr?
Yeah, so the other three were, you know, what do you spend your time on? You know, what do you always have energy for, and
Yeah.
how do you spend your money? So, uh,
Okay.
the things that you focus on, they're all different ways of asking the question of where is your focus? What do you spend your focus on? You know, time, energy, money, space. You know, these are all effectively resources that we have. So another way to think of it is how are you spending the resources that are available to you?
Mhm.
And that's a really powerful way to actually just very simply ask some very natural questions
Yeah.
to people to be able to understand them a bit better.
Yeah, yeah, because you can learn about yourself that way, but you can also learn once you kind of understand that. I think that's most important to learn about yourself or self awareness.
Hmm.
But then, if you consider this in a business sense, and selling is knowing by walking into someone's space, having a wee look around their room, being more observative, and then seeing that, for example, they have uh, a glass cat uh, display on their windowsill, and then you turn right, and they've got another five of them there, and they've got five cats walking about the house. You start like you can talk about cats, and that was I think it was Napoleon Hill talked about that, and it's how you can relate to people on that
Hmm.
level, and that's a great way to break that sort of ice to build rapport when you first enter into a room with a new person and meet a person for the first time. Understanding people's priorities very fast is a great way to build rapport, and you need to build rapport before you ever go and sell anything. So I think being a good conversationalist, it actually helps for that as well. If you're just looking to make friends, or um, you're looking for a relationship, you're looking to get into a relationship, like there's so many benefits of understanding other people's priorities as well as your own, because you can know
Yeah,
how to motivate yourself, but you can also know how to motivate others, such as people in your team, your staff, your prospects, and your customers.
yeah, and this idea of relationships as well. You know, not just romantic relationships. You know, family relationships, business relationships, friendships, all kinds of relationships. You know, by understanding each other better, you can actually be more powerful together and then create more of what you both love. You know, um, the kind of idea was that if you can understand how each other's priorities link together, and how you benefit each other in the ways that you behave based on your priorities. Say, for example, with you and Gemma, uh, if you understand how her top priorities benefit you, and how your benefit her priorities benefit her, then you'll have a much better relationship. And obviously that's true for you know, anything really. If you're having a business venture, then it's a fantastic way of being able to really, I guess, help people to tap into their you know, tap into their genius when they're feeling low, and
Yeah,
also to help them stay focused when they're maybe getting overexcited as well.
yeah,
You know, so it just
yeah,
kind of comes back to that idea of balance of that kind of thing. It's going even deeper into that.
yeah. And going back to like what you talked about the benefits and the balance mixed with priorities, then we we can talk about their motivations, let's say,
Mm, mm,
but we can also, by feeling like that sort of imposter syndrome, um, not feeling good enough about selling a product. Like people have that resistance massively, and business owners especially find it very hard to sell themselves, especially when it's a product that they really care about.
Hmm.
So building up, you told me building up that list of writing down. So to get over that, writing down the list of benefits to put yourself in the right mind frame, which sales is all about, being in the right mind frame, being very confident about the product you're selling.
Hmm.
By writing down a list, like 4 A4 sheets of paper, of all the benefits of working with you and your product, what that value can bring to them, is a massive way to change your state from here being kind of not good enough to here feeling overly confident that people would be silly to buy some other product than
Yeah.
buy your own. And that list of benefits, that idea of listing the benefits was really powerful. But on the balance side, on the other side, you talked about um, if you feel maybe you're being arrogant or you're feeling a bit cocky, kind of over like elated, too high, that's a dangerous place to be. We've both recognized that's when you're at these highs, that's when you pop out the top, or something snaps or breaks or something happens, and then you end up at the bottom and you lose all your money, you lose all your friends, or something like that will happen.
Yeah.
And we want to avoid that. So recognizing when we're on our high horse and we're moving to the top, watch out for that and humble yourself by going, like me and Virr do this to each other all the time. If I recognize that Virr is at level 10 of confidence, I go, Virr, we need to humble you. And then I'll ask him some questions about where he's not doing so well. So that by doing that, it brings you back to the lows. So what you can do is on that other side, on the other scale, when you're feeling too high, and you can recognize that it comes to self-awareness, writing a list of things that is not going so well in your life, or things that mistakes that you've made this week, and humbling yourself is a really good practice as well. We talked about, and I found that really valuable, especially for me getting used to selling this new service of coaching. I need to write down all the benefits and realize my true potential, and just embed that confidence in myself to sell myself.
Yeah, and you've actually just made me remember something, or actually figure something out a little bit along those lines as well. So, you were saying about this idea where you're going from um, feeling maybe insecure about the product that you're selling and unsure to going to being overconfident. I would say that actually that's too far even,
Okay.
and that actually it is about kind of getting to here, but you can go to overconfident, and then if you get to that stage, then you can think about what are the drawbacks of someone working with you as well.
Okay.
And that's a really powerful way to actually think about what objections people could have to your product or service as well. Because, I was reading another book, I think it was Rejection Therapy, and really, really powerful. It's a guy who did 100 days of rejection. And one of the things that he mentioned was that when you actually voice to the person that you're speaking to the things that they might be thinking, it kind of helps them to overcome those obstacles a lot easier, because they understand that um, you are on the same level as them, you know. So it's a really, really interesting idea that if you understand not just the benefits of your product, but also the drawbacks of your product and service, then you can, be more powerful in connecting with the person that you're speaking to, the person that you're selling to, because then you know what they're thinking, the possible things that they could be thinking, and that could stop them from working with you. And also, the other side of it is that you can maybe more kind of accept and be aware of when the situation just isn't right for them to work with you,
Yeah.
because the
Yep.
truth is that sometimes um, there's not a synergy between you and your client, and that's very important to try and understand that very
Yep.
early on as well, so that
Yep.
you can move on and help someone else when
Yep.
you know that you won't be able to help this person.
Yep. Yeah, that's really good. I've got a wee comment here from Dylan. I don't know if you can see it yourself. I've just put it up on the screen.
Yeah, bank.
So Dylan says, I've also heard of bank blueprint require understanding of how you match their predetermined actions, then action, people who prioritize speed, nurturing people who want to know you care about them, and knowledge, those who need all the details. Right,
Oh,
okay.
okay. That sounds like different types of people.
Yeah,
Like it's to do with what understanding what the person you're speaking to kind of needs in terms of the way that you communicate with them. So, like this person has said, Dylan, thank you very much for sharing that. If you're speaking to someone who's action oriented, then they're not going to want to know necessarily all of the details involved. They want to know what do they need to do, what do you need to do, and you can get through it much quicker. Whereas if you're speaking to someone who's blueprint oriented, then it might take a lot longer, and you might need to go through all of the smaller, finer details with them.
right.
But that's what they need to feel confident in the product. And I suppose if you understand that, then when you understand that you're talking to a blueprint person, then you don't get frustrated when maybe it takes longer than you expected to have that meeting, for example.
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up with the right expectations.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's as well as there's these personality tests, personality types, and all these different strategies for understanding the environment, the person, the situation, and where you stand and where they stand, and how to motivate people. Understanding all of that as a whole, I think is really important. Like being able to adapt in situations and respond accordingly to how things are going and play it
Mm.
by ear and start to use like knowledge. So I heard the ideas is just an accumulation of information. So ideas get formed into, sorry, ideas are forms of lots of information, and that's why that's why I egg on everyone to read. That's why I read it every day myself, because when we read every day, we get these ideas, and then when it comes to real life, like reading's like a virtual simulator of learning something without putting your body to use. And then when you're in those situations, these ideas come to your mind, and this it's like it's almost like second nature. It becomes eventually like judgment. So when you learn all these different strategies and acronyms, you could use them and apply them practically in life, which is really good to take an accumulation of all of them and
Mm.
apply it.
And I think that, in fact, one of the things you said is really important as well. Is that at the end of the day, all of these different systems are all just different models.
Yeah.
And they're obviously models created on data, on evidence. But at the end of the day, every model is simply a generalization to some extent. So knowing the models is really important, and it's like a really good foundation knowledge to have. And it's also important to be able to be quite intuitive in and this is kind of where all of this idea of balance and being able to be present comes back into it, is where you can take all of this knowledge, all of these models that and be able to sort of let go of them in a sense, and just be present with the person you're talking to,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
what you know will and what you need to know in that moment will be obvious to you to talk about, to share, to use, and to analyze in your mind, or to even just keep in mind while you're talking to the person. Uh, but it's not about the focus of that model; it's about the focus of the person themselves and their
Exactly.
situation. Yeah,
As we were taught, connection beats perfection. So,
yeah,
memorizing all these different things, your mind going very analytically in front of a person is never good. You just want this connection, and that's how you judge things and play it by ear, and things become obvious.
yeah.
So that knowledge is just stored back there for you if you need it, and you,
Mm.
you take it when you need it when you're working intuitively, like we're speaking about. Um, Last thing, Dylan's just asked what's our current reads. So what are you reading, and what's the book about, Ver?
So I'm reading Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. We discussed that before. It's very. scientific, but also easy to read and easy to understand book that's all about understanding the kind of connection or the link between consciousness and kind of the physical world. This kind of very biological, physical understanding of what's going on when you're having a thought, what's going on when you're being intuitive, and how your body is actually responding. And by understanding that, it can just kind of help you maybe be more confident that a lot of the things that you're learning have a kind of a basis in the real world. It's really amazing to see that. In a sense, science is finally catching up with philosophy.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I'm also reading the same type of book. I just finished Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and now I'm reading Evolve Your Brain by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And at the end of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, he said that Evolve Your Brain is actually a good companion to read along with or read before or after Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. It's stretched out. I think it's a wee bit longer actually. It's got more theory. Whereas Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, if you're a practical person, you like practical books. I think Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself is a better overall book. Kind of summarizes what's in Evolve Your Brain. But if you're a context person like me and want to go and learn deep, I read volumes of books. So if you want to go deeper, then I think Evolve Your Brain is important to read alongside Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. But yeah, breaking the one that Vir's reading is definitely worth reading, and then seeing if you really enjoyed that. Then go on to read the one that I'm reading because it's a wee bit more uh, dense, a lot more to take in. It's hard to get your head around, evolve your brain, but I found it very easy to begin with Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, which seems to be the most popular book of Dr. Joe Dispenza's. So I think they're kind of summarized that up as well as I could about what these books are about. It's really just understanding um, the all parts of the brain. Like we are very different from animals and different species because we have this logical thinking brain, which is the largest part of our brain, and the newest and most developed part of the brain. And then obviously we've got the sort of middle and sort of mammal brain, and how those all coordinate together. That's what I'm learning about in Evolve Your Brain. And on the Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, it was more about understanding this about your brain, but also understanding like we're physical body, our physical body and brain is the physical side, and how we can operate our body from the spiritual side. So there's two sort of dimensions that we operate through, but really understanding it all as a whole is really important in how they operate together. So that's what we're reading. Dylan's
and
also and he's just finished The Compound Effect, which is a great book. I highly recommend that. And Getting to Yes, which is one that is about negotiation, I think, and is one that I would like to read. So, yeah, thanks for everyone who joined us. If you've watched this on replay, please put in hashtag replay.
I've just got a quick question for you actually, just before we
We should
finish off.
we should mention the Sunrise Book Club as well,
Yeah,
which is why we're actually reading the same books to get along together. It wasn't planned, but because we've got this wee community where we share 1 minute book reviews to help us comprehend the book and memorize everything we were learning. We read the book, share a 1 minute book review before 9 a.m. That's where the Sunrise name comes from. And because of that sharing, it makes us read the book more analytically and think we're going to have to share this and teach what we've learned this morning rather than just reading passively. We've got to be on our toes in a way when we're reading and really think about what we're reading, what we've actually learned. And that reflection is really valuable for higher learning. So that's the Sunrise Book Club. The website's now live. We're still developing it, but it's the sunrisebookclub.com. No, the sunrisebookclub.com, and it's the same on Facebook and on Instagram. So check that out. Where I'm just sharing some of the project as I'm going. as we're building this business, and we've got a few beta testers using it and benefiting from it. Have you got anything else to add, Virr, before we go?
Amazing. Yeah, I was just going to ask you. You were mentioning about reading volumes of data, and I was going to ask you, kind of partly to share about how you do that. But I think you've just answered that question. So thank
Yep.
you. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah. Streets ahead of you. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's end it just now. Thanks for everyone joining. I really appreciate the comments, Dylan, and someone else that left a comment. That was Peter, and anyone else who joins us on the replay. I hope you find this valuable. I think I've learned even more again. So
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
thanks for joining me. Bye just now, everyone.
Bye.